All right, so Battle Buddies, episode 2, Ken Harbaugh, David Bellavia. Ken, I appreciate your hospitality. You started off the last one. It's now my serve. And again, it's not really about scoring points. It's about dialogue and communicating. You come on my show in Buffalo, New York, every single Tuesday. Even when you're in God knows where, like you're in Europe, you're coming on the show, doing your thing. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to start off with a question about Minnesota and what's happening right there. This is ugly and it's horrible and it's obviously divisive and people are entrenched on their sides. But if we could just acknowledge the role that ICE is doing right now, what the mission is. If I eliminated the Department of Motor Vehicles and I said that we're going to have to enforce registration in your state, and if I can't have a vehicle to do that, I've got to bring the police in and take cars that aren't registered and use our local municipality and our local police force. People would obviously be upset. I mean, it's what, is it even a misdemeanor? It's a fine. What are we doing? We have created the need for ICE to go door to door because we have these states and municipalities that are saying the best way to avoid ICE from doing a raid would be to have the worst of the worst in custody, simply peacefully being transferred over into, ERO and ICE. Do you acknowledge that this is a problem of the jurisdictions that are deciding that they want to give sanctuary?
I don't think ICE is the solution, whatever the problem might be. I agree we need to enforce our laws, and I've always maintained that position. I agreed that we need immigrations and customs enforcement. And look, 5 years ago, I probably would have supported ICE getting more resources for the job. But looking at how they're behaving now with the resources they've been given, I'm not sure that it's an organization that can be reformed. I think there are other ways to do it. I know there are other ways to do it because you look at how the Obama administration enforced immigration, and while I didn't agree with everything they did, they actually were able to do it more effectively and more efficiently and less brutally than ICE is today. So it's not really about immigration. We've had immigration enforcement without the brutality, without the infringement upon the rights of U.S. citizens, which you're seeing at scale these days. Over 100 U.S. citizens detained without charge, without explanation. You had this U.S. citizen, an old man, dragged out into the street in his underwear, later released without charge but no apology. I don't think ICE can be trusted.
So, but again, the Obama comparison, which we've heard a lot, you don't have 10 million people before his administration that were allowed to enter the country. You didn't have the sanctuary city policies that you have today. And the other thing that you didn't have is you didn't have this all being fomented by outside folks that, for whatever political reason, are fomenting what you're seeing on the streets today. But taking that still into consideration of what you just said, what I don't understand, and I'm trying to truthfully grasp where this is coming from, is that ICE, there's no need for ICE. Okay, so any American citizen being taken into custody for doing something they haven't done is, I'm with you. Sign me up for that. I don't want that. I do acknowledge that there are some people that came into this country illegally that serve a great benefit for the United States going forward. Signing the guest book at the wedding is the least of the requirements if you're going to crash a wedding. So I can't make any determination who's the good witch and who's the bad witch if I don't know who you are and I have no documentation of who you are. So clearly the last administration's policies, the last administration's lack of transparency, I would also argue honor and integrity with their under oath testimony in front of the House and Senate, that this is not a problem, that this is under control. There are really bad people in Minneapolis who've done horrible things that I do not want around your children or my children. Regardless of where we are politically, there are some really bad people that came through this border. If we can't even meet in the middle to determine who those bad people are and how to get them out, or at least have them face justice. I mean, we can't even pretend to be going and finding some consensus on these actual policies that make us all better and make us feel good about being Americans. I mean, what is the solution to get the bad people off the streets if you're in a sanctuary city? You're protecting everybody from ICE.
We've been able to do that very effectively in the past without the brutality, and without asking American citizens for their papers. I don't know if you saw this latest video of ICE questioning someone based on their accent and forcing them to produce documentation without any suspicion other than how they talk. We have literally become a country now where you have to carry your papers. And we used to joke about that. We used to joke about the idea of, in Nazi Germany being forced to carry your papers, or Soviet Russia being forced to carry your papers. Now, if you're an American citizen with an accent, and I've talked to American citizens with accents. I did the border tour recently, where you don't leave home without documentation. And that's not the free country I want my kids to inherit. And that has been thrust upon us by this administration and by ICE. Other administrations have been able to arrest pedophiles. And it's interesting to me that is suddenly the target here, have been able to arrest pedophiles and lock up bad people without turning us into a country that asks American citizens for their papers. But that's where we are.
Listen, I want to welcome you to my principled argument back in 2020 during COVID, because that was precisely what outraged me then. I think you should have some form of identification. In fact, I think the law pretty much dictates that you do when you're driving a vehicle.
Sure, but this
I agree
person
with you
wasn't driving a vehicle; they were in front of their own home.
I agree. I don't think. But we were literally asking people before they went anywhere. We had the National Guard at airports asking, "Where have you been? What have you done? Who have you talked to?" during COVID, and a lot of libertarians were going crazy. I'm not a libertarian, but that was annoying. That did feel a little 30s, 1930s, if you would, in Eastern Europe.
Super annoying.
But I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I'm going to give you that. Let me, though, double down on what is actually the prescription for dealing with bad people that want to cause harm or have already caused harm, who did bad things, maybe not in America, but in the country that they lied and came here to the United States with a different name, different country. We have no information. What about, how can I facilitate their detention and expulsion from the country when I am in a sanctuary city or state that is not doing anything with ICE? I mean, your side in the polling, we've seen the polling across the board, what's polling, national elections, forget all that. Just on a constitutional basis, the sanctuary policies, whether they come before the court or they're not before the court, they're impeding the ability for any participation with the federal government and the state government. Is this something that we can at least find consensus on, that the sanctuary policies have to change? Nothing else?
There are 1,000 cities that aren't Minneapolis that are handling it, that are able to find the bad guys and either lock them up or get rid of them. The idea that this is somehow an epidemic is belied by the fact that the only place it's a problem is where ICE is, Minneapolis. Other cities have police forces that are able to track down and arrest bad guys, and they do it pretty well. Look, I wish every city were perfectly safe. You're always going to have some crime. But in cities that don't have ICE, somehow they're still able to maintain law and order.
But if I'm pulling 1,800 felons off the streets currently in operations in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and Minnesota, what is the argument that the sanctuary cities are doing anything? How the presence of these individuals belies the argument that the local municipalities are doing anything. They're not expelling people. They're not detaining people. I mean, the discovery laws and the different bail reform, cashless bail alone dictates that they're not even, there's American citizens that are assaulting people that are walking down the streets. But I'm saying the criminal illegal alien is not being dealt with under the rule of the law in these sanctuary cities. Which city should I look at? and
Look,
see the
there are
way that it's
plenty of
been.
cities that have very effective police forces and are filling their jails, right, with the bad guys. So I don't know. I would probably compare your 1,700 felons to the tens of thousands of bad guys that police departments, without ICE's help around the country, are able to address. To me, though, it comes down to the fundamental issue of the the preservation of American rights. And I think we're putting too low of a price on that. The idea that we should be able, or we should have to give up our rights um, to the Fourth Amendment search and seizure, to being able to drop off our kids at daycare, our rights to habeas corpus. I mean, you're reading these stories in one case of an American veteran detained for 3 days without a lawyer. That's not worth it, even if ICE were perfectly effective and just going after the bad guys, which they're not. The vast majority of people they are getting and locking up aren't the ones you're talking about. They're not criminals, much less violent criminals, and they're filling up concentration camps with these folks, or they're concentrating them in camps in Florida and elsewhere, and it's going to be a stain on our national honor for forever. I don't know how we resolve this without some serious truth and reconciliation, but even if I do take your point that they are getting some bad guys, it's not worth the price to our civil liberties.
If we were on the team of red blue as a blind partisan, I would say you did this to us. The blue team did this to the red team. The blue team did this to the country. It was the flawed policies when we asked for some semblance back when Trump was under indictment and Trump was convicted, and there was confusion in the midterm. The big red wave became a bubble. The argument was being made by rational Americans that weren't partisan lunatics of please stop this. We heard voices like in Texas from Democrats. We heard voices in California and in New York saying this is going to be a problem. So these were known decisions that were made by Democrats at the time. And now that we're all acknowledging the sins of the Biden administration, we're collectively looking at it. Even this didn't even happen with Bush in Iraq. There was no apology tour for the decisions of the Bush administrations during the global war on terror. We brought in Obama and said, you know what, that guy was absolutely screwing everything up. Let's do something totally different. America wanted to go in a different direction than Joe Biden. And this political party is not even owning or having any accountability for the policies that were being cheerleaded. How do you look at moderates today on both sides of the aisle and say, trust us in a midterm because we're going to fix this problem? Illegal immigration is a problem. It's causing housing to go through the roof. It's a problem for American natives and jobs and wages and opportunity. What's the answer to that?
Responsible Democrats have been trying to address this. In fact, late in Biden's term, there was a bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform bill that was torpedoed on the instructions of Donald Trump because he wanted to hurt the Biden administration. Jim Langford, one of the most conservative senators in Washington, Republican from Oklahoma, said the responsibility for the death of that bill is with Donald Trump. When the Democrats came to me and tried to come up with a solution on immigration, we came up with one. We had a package that had supporters from both sides of the aisle. It would have addressed many of the flaws in our system, and it failed because Donald Trump wanted it to fail because he wanted to hurt the Biden administration and, in the process, hurt the American people and set us up for some of the failures you're pointing at now. But when Dems have tried to address this, the current president has wanted to maintain the crisis because it's his most effective cudgel, and the safety of the American people be damned.
I just don't know a time in our history when one party said, I'll continue to openly violate federal law and keep the border open unless you give us a concession. Make a concession or I'll continue to violate federal law is not something that I believe is a rational talking point, but I hear what you're saying. I think it's a problem. We have to fix it. That's my That's my side.
D-
What is your side?
My side is we absolutely need immigration reform. We need a stable, dignified path to citizenship. We need to honor the fact that we're a nation of immigrants and we're made stronger because of it. And the anti immigrant rhetoric hurts all of us, not just the Haitians being targeted in my state or the Somalis being targeted in Minnesota. It hurts the very character and fabric of this nation when you demonize immigrants the way the administration has been doing. So I want paths to citizenship. I want to recognize the value of immigration, and I want reasonable, sane, humane immigration enforcement like we have managed to do in the past without brutalizing both the weakest among us, the most vulnerable among us, and the American citizens who happen to either stand in the way or just be caught in the wrong place on their way to a doctor's appointment, dragged from their car, baby going into cardiac arrest because of ICE's brutal tactics. I'm not making any of that up. We've got the videos. There are better ways to do this than empowering people who are not equipped to be given the tools and the weapons they have.
I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, I mean, I'm hearing these stories and I'm disgusted by all of them. But I also have a gang rape of a 12-year-old girl that, if we went into description, I think would make your blood boil. And to know that this was done with a criminal cartel that continues to poison. I mean, look at the fentanyl overdoses with just a tough. We sat here and talked about the southern border in terms of humanity, but what about all the contraband? What about the illegal guns? What about the drugs? What else comes with having a porous border? And why was this an advantage to anyone on the Democrat side? Well, what, is it Cloward Piven? Is it just to implode the system? What is it? I'm not Candace Owens. I'm not going to sit here and tell you conspiracies about why the world is happening. I'm disturbed that this is a policy, and like the Iraq War, that I was on the wrong side of in the debate, and you were on the right side of. I could look at you and tell you that for 6 years, my argument was wrong. I was wrong about where I believed we should be with American adventurism. It was flawed. I didn't listen. I listened to the political powers around me. I trusted the wrong people, and I was wrong, and I've learned lessons from that. I would really appreciate that moment of clarity from people that are now looking back, even a year ago, to the talking points that are just like, there's nothing good about an open border.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that benefited us by allowing this amount of really just designed, organized, and implemented ways to abscond with federal and state money to fly people at 2:00 in the morning into every municipality. They destroyed El Paso. They destroyed Buffalo, New York. They went into everyone was a border town. And why was this done? NGOs made money. Nonprofits made money. That, by the way, is the definition of human trafficking, when someone doesn't even want to go to Buffalo. I love Buffalo, but you probably don't. To not have a choice of where you're going and find out that there's 3 government insulated organizations that are profiting off you showing up, that's not something that America should be doing.
Yeah, look, if you want me to meet you halfway, I can meet you more than halfway on opposition to totally open borders. So
Okay.
we can agree on that. It's
There we
just
go. That's what it's all about.
All right. Maybe we wrap it there. I just cannot abide the assaults on human dignity that has excused. And look, we both learned this in kindergarten. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
100%. 100%. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And it doesn't matter what the other side's doing. We still have a code. We still have a compass, and that should be respected. And no president is bigger than the country, and no party is more important than the Constitution. And I'm with you 100% on that.
Well, maybe we end this one on a rare note of agreement and comedy, and we'll revisit whatever the issue of the week is next week. If I can get a signal from Greenland, let's talk Greenland next week.
Well, if we get America running Greenland, you're going to have 5G. I'll tell you, we're going to bring Verizon in that thing, and you're going to be streaming Netflix.
All right, David. Thanks. Let's check in soon. Later.
Thank you.